Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Another edition of Everything Football 62. I'm your host, Jonathan Big Tex Johnson. Um, ever since the New Orleans and Carolina game, which New Orleans won 31-26, there's been this big fallout that everybody's been having with Cam Newton for whatever reason. Cam had enjoyed a hell of a game. Uh, Cam went 24 for 40 for 349 yards and two touchdowns, 105.1 passer rating, which was a major step up from what had actually happened when they played Atlanta in the last game of the season, where he just stuck up the joint. And the Carolina team as a whole basically did not look very good at all at the end of the day. When you really boil it right down to it, none of them really looked any good. That's just my humble opinion. But I've looked at, because Colin Coward, he always goes in on Cam about Cam is not, he's frosting, he's not the cake like all the supposedly upper echelon quarterbacks is out and about. And he always gives Cam this whole thing like, he's not accurate, he's up and down, he has a cannon on, but he's this, that. And it's some facts to that. You can give him that. Cam, like I said before, is a sulker at times. He gets down on himself. When with somebody such a big personality like he has, I wouldn't think he would be that way. But nonetheless, Cam is a franchise quarterback, and he's shown that. The thing that enamors me with a guy like Cam, and whatnot, and he's able to do so many things. Now, what I'm gonna talk about here, and what might shock a lot of different people, but it didn't really shock me. If you really try to get off into stats and all this kind of stuff, and really delve deep into certain things, you'll get a chance to see this thing. Now, everybody went in about Drew Brees. Drew Brees is doing this thing like Drew Brees has always done. Now, mind you, the last 3 years in a row, like I said, 14, 15, and 16, Drew Brees' team basically went 7-9 3 years in a row. And Drew Brees threw for a ton of yards and all that stuff, and they were at home. They made some changes, some great drafting, and they're in the mix. They're in the mix again. Drew Brees had a good year, still a good year statistically, like he basically always does. But at this particular point in time, he has a running game with Kamara and Ingram, uh, more or less, basically with Drew Brees, and what they've done was surround him around some good players. He's always had good receivers, not no maybe a lot of Pro Bowls and all this stuff, but he always had really good receivers. And that's one of the things I think that's always helped out Breeze, and plus, the way that he throws the ball. Now, having said that, uh, but the funny thing, because this football is a game of inches and little things that happen here and that it sways this way, goes this way, that way. They were so New Orleans 4th and 1. They run the ball, it's like they don't have any confidence. They couldn't even run the ball. They had to. Sean Payton calls a pass, and this is the sequence of events that basically happened. Sean Payton calls a pass. Drew Brees rolls out, throws an interception. Carolina defensive back catches the ball. It's an interception, but it takes him. But if he drops it, it puts him 16 yards closer. Cam makes a play. They do some passing and stuff. They get down there. They get down there, and just think of what it would have happened. I mean, you think about if Carolina goes on to win again, if Funches actually catches the ball and not lose the ball in the light as he says he did, any other very good receiver, not even a pro, just a very good receiver, would have caught that ball, because Cam put it right there where it needed to be put at, in that particular zone right there. And the kid didn't make the play. Plus, goes back later on to the other guy who didn't actually catch the ball in the first quarter when they drove down there and got no points at all. So they probably could have got a field goal and actually won the game if everything would have went the way they pretty much wanted it to have went. Now, what would have been the fallout on somebody like Drew Brees at that time had they lost that game? But we'll never know. But I did a little thing. I did a little researching and stuff like that. Like I said, Colin Coward talked about, oh, he's supposed to do this, supposed to. Colin Coward. Like I said, it's a lot of these guys that have issues with dual threat quarterbacks. Period, because they come from a particular era. So I did some digging. I did some research and everything like that, and went to go really check things out. Now, this is what I came up with, because Cam Newton just finished out his 7th year in the league, and I'm gonna break down to you exactly what Cam has done in his first 7 years in the league. And let me go through, and then I'm gonna compare it to another player that you may be shocked about. But at the same time, it's just like, you look at how a quarterback ends up developing as time goes on. and you got to give it time sometime. Here we go. Cam Newton, in the 7 years that he's played football, he has thrown for 154 touchdowns already. Okay? In 7 years, he threw for 154 touchdowns. And he has rushed for 54 touchdowns. Now, Cam Newton, like I said, is a dual threat quarterback, which means this person can hurt you passing or running. If one doesn't work, he can hurt you with the other. Okay? That's what a dual threat quarterback is. Now, Cam has rushed for, like I said, 54 touchdowns in 154 in 154 passing. So you look at what Cam 8, 10. So you're looking at 200 and I want to say 208. Cam has amassed 208 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. If I did my math right. 208 touchdowns. That's what he's amassed in his 7-year career. 208. Definitely nothing to sneeze at. Cam Newton's record is 62, 45, and 1. Playoff record, he's 3-4. Like I said, he just finished his 7th year. In his 7 years in the league, Cam has been the offensive rookie of the year. Cam has been the league MVP. He's been the league offensive player of the year. And he's been a first-team All-Pro, and he's been to a Super Bowl. This is what Cam has done in his first 7 years in the league. Okay? And it's just funny to me on how people rag on him. Cam averages, as a quarterback passing, 22 touchdowns a year. He averages 22 touchdowns a year. He averages 7 touchdowns a year rushing. Okay? So with 7 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns that he get per year, Cam averages 29 touchdowns a year. Now, if you sit up there and say, well, it's certain quarterbacks that I've done research on that average, they average 24, 25, 27, 28, 29 touchdowns a game. I keep saying a game, a year. That's great. So you mean to tell me if they can average 31 passing the ball, Cam with doing both as a dual threat quarterback, because he's not the traditional quarterback. Because I think in Brees, and not Drew Brees, but I want to say Aaron Rodgers, in his 10 years of starting quarterback, he averages 31 touchdowns a year. That's what he averages. Okay? And maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns rushing. That's it. So with Cam, with 29 to 30, 33, he's right there as far as putting points. It's about putting points on the board. So he does that as a dual threat quarterback. A lot of other quarterbacks, 25, 26, 27. Okay, so Cam is doing that. He does it 22 with passing, and he does it 7 with that of rushing. That he averages 29 touchdowns a year. Okay? So this is, like I said, again, 62, 45, and 1 record. And Cam has done all these things in the year. Now here I'm getting ready to give you some stats to that of a quarterback who is an all-time great and is going to be a Hall of Famer. This is what this person has pretty much done in his career. His first 7 years in the league. And let's do this. This quarterback has thrown for 134 touchdowns. He rushed for 5 touchdowns. So that's 9. That gives him 139 touchdowns altogether. Okay. Also, like to mention with Cam, he's thrown 94 picks. This quarterback is thrown for 82 picks. This quarterback is, like I said, thrown for 134 passing touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns in his first 7 years. His first 7 years in the league, he's 37 and 43. That's his record. He's 37 and 43. In that time frame, he's went to 2 Pro Bowls. Okay, already told you what Cam did. Now, with him doing this, then you go back. He goes to the playoffs in his 4th year. This other quarterback I'm talking about. It's not until for the playoffs. It's not until his 7th year that he won a playoff game. In his first 7, so he's 1-2 in his first 7 years in the league. Okay, this is what this player has done. Again, I'm gonna say this again for those who are gonna freak out. 134 passing touchdowns, 5 rushing, That's 139 total touchdowns. 37 and 43 is his record. 2 Pro Bowls. Went to a playoff game in his 4th year. Didn't win. He didn't win his first playoff game until his 7th year in the league. Okay, and 2 Pro Bowls. You want to know who that player is? Quite simply, that player is Drew Brees of the New Orleans Saints, who started his career out with the San Diego Chargers. Now, Drew Brees has been in the league Drew Brees has been in the league what now? Going on with his 6th. Let me see. Drew Brees came in 01. He's going to 16th, 17th year, right? He was in the league 10 years by the time Cam came in. So he's been in the league 17 years. This is his 17th year in the league. And Drew Brees, if you go look at his stats and what he actually did, or what he's done, or what he got an opportunity, and all the stats and all the different great things that Drew Brees has done as one of the great quarterbacks in the game, right? His first 7 years was pretty good, was okay or whatever. He did pretty good. He did kind of what you expect, what you kind of want him to do. But based upon the Drew Brees that you know now, and is looking back at that, that wasn't the Drew Brees that everybody knows and love, or that everybody wants to think of. Oh, he was always like that. When that wasn't the case, he was a good young quarterback coming up. And to me, nobody ever really said anything about that. And plus, with Drew Brees over the past 3 years, like I just noted out, went 79 3 years in a row, throwing for a ton of yards, but everybody's sitting at home. Now, I ain't saying that's his fault, but nonetheless, you hold quarterbacks to this particular standard, you got to hold them to that too. They did not make the playoffs 3 years in a row. Okay? So Drew Brees from 2001, right? 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2001 to 2007, right? I mean, this is what we're talking about. Wasn't around his 7th year that he won a playoff game. So when we start breaking these things down, 6th or 7th year before he won his playoff game, Cam Newton had already won. In Cam's 5th year, he was in the Super Bowl and was a league MVP. But everybody, and then people forget that Cam was hurt last year. Nobody seems to be talking about that. Okay? And see, that's what I'm saying. So we all see after his 7th year, Drew Brees, what went on with him after age 27, started at age 28, going to where he's at 38, 10 years later. And what his career, a Super Bowl, passing titles, records, leading the league, touchdowns, 40 touchdowns, 30 touchdowns, this, that, yeah. That's what he's done. That's what he's done. You give Cam some receivers. I'm not sitting up there saying, he got to have super duper. He got some guys that know how to catch the ball and will go get the ball. He could probably put up those same type of numbers, but that's not really the game. Cam, like I said, a dual threat quarterback. And see, what people have, the old guard has a problem with dual threat quarterbacks. And they shouldn't have it, but putting points on the board is putting points on the board. So when you start breaking down anything about that of someone like the great Drew Brees and what he's done his first 7 years compared to Cam has got him 2-1, literally. It's like the comparison. It's not even comparing. Now with Norv Turner coming over there, the quarterback whisperer, great quarterback guy, great offensive coordinator, not very good as a head coach because he's already shown that. But if he does this and Cam takes his stuff to the next level, I want to see all these detractors that talk that crap about Cam, because Colin Cowherd was some guy in the Washington Post talking about what his percentages and stuff is going down, passer rate. Dude, I don't really care about completion rate. Cam went 59.1. Few points off here and they could have went 60%. If you're doing 60 some odd percent, something like Brees precision, that's what Brees does. That's what he does. Cam has a whole nother weaponry that he deals with. Okay? And so with that, having that particular type of that arsenal that he has, he produces. And I don't understand why people get in this issue. That's just like when Shaq first came in the league. And there's real good buddy of mine, real basketball guy. And you would always hear when we go somewhere shooting hoops and talking noise or whatever, just sitting around listening to guys talk about Shaq. Oh, all Shaq does is dunk. And my man would always say, last I checked, A dunk counts for 2 points as well. It counts. He might not be what you want to be, like a Patrick Ewing or David Robinson, to give you jump shots and everything like that. Shaq gave you power that you didn't see before. He gave you power. You couldn't stop his dunk. Power, not stopping his dunk. And Shaq was a hell of a passer. No, he wasn't going to get you 30 foot out, giving you a sky hook. He wasn't going to give you a 30-foot jumper like a Patrick Ewing could, who could do it from the inside and outside. Shaq gave you pure power, and he gave you some finesse with his passing and whatnot. Same thing goes with Cam 6'6", 250. He gets down on the goal line, you're not stopping that. That still counts. He rushed for 742 yards this year. Cam accounted for over 4,000 and some odd yard offense and 28 touchdowns, which is basically right as his average, 22 touchdowns plus 7. So he was one under his average. So you're looking at somebody give you 29, close to 30 touchdowns a year. What's the difference if let's like the year when Michael Vick came back, Michael Vick, comeback player of the year, Michael Vick threw for 3,000 some odd yards, rushed for like 600 or 700 yards, had 21 at 21 passing touchdown. He had nine rushing. He accounted for 30 touchdowns. If I'm not mistaken, Brady threw for like 32, 33 touchdowns that year, 31, 32, 33 touchdowns that year. I'm just like, he's right on him as far as touchdowns are concerned. It's touchdowns. They still count. The yards is rushed still count. Just because they don't do it all with their arm, but they're doing the majority of it. They're doing a lot of it with their arm as well. But nobody wants to talk about that, what they're doing with their legs, because they say that's like a chicken shit way out. I'm going to run it instead of learning to read defense. And no, if you have the ability to do both, then you do both. And you become more deadlier whenever you start doing what? Reading your defenses and getting more accurate. So give Cam the time and be fair, just like you do all these other quarterbacks. You got to be fair when it comes to this. And you, like I said, go look it up. Go look at Drew Brees' first 7 years compared to Cam's 7 years. And like I said, Cam outdoes him. Almost double. And nobody talks about that. 34 and 43 is Drew Brees. 62, 45, and 1 is that of Cam. 1 and 2, Brees in the playoffs. Cam 3 and 4 in the playoffs. 134 passing, 154 passing. Case closed. Now y'all go pick on somebody else. I said, but you didn't see that one coming. Nobody looks at it from that perspective. Nobody. Everybody wants to talk about all this other crap, but they don't want to talk about that right there, though. I'm like, so give the man time on his next 7 years or the next 5 or 6 years, what he develops as then. And then you come back and talk to me. I'll be back in a few minutes.